Have you ever tried Korean Galbitang soup?
You know what time it is. It's your boy Hammer Bong, and welcome to Hammer Time Cooking. On today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to make Korean Galbitang soup. Stay tuned, and let's get cooking.
Now, galbi is the Korean word for ribs, and it's going to be the star protein for this recipe. So tang in Korean translates to soup in English. If you know me, I can't live without my soups, and this is one recipe I would love to share with you. The secret in this soup is our homemade dashima. We're going to need some Korean seaweeds, some dried shrimp, some shitake mushrooms, and some garlic. So traditional dashima is made with anchovies, but I didn't have any on hand. So instead, I'm using dried shrimp. Basically, all of these dried items is going to be used for our Umami Bomb flavor packet. So I got these stock bags from Daiso for about $1.50. Now these bags come in very handy. Like if you've seen any of my other soup videos, you know I like to use it. Add all of your ingredients, let the ingredients steep like tea, and then you just take them out of the pot. Here I'm simply adding my dried ingredients. We added the shrimp, some garlic, our shiitake mushrooms. Not to mention, I also add a teaspoon of black pepper. We want to add a little bit of peppery notes to our stock. And finally, we'll add our dried seaweed. Now, if you made this soup without this Umami Bomb packet, this would simply be a beef bone broth soup. I mean, the short ribs give a nice flavor to the soup, but this here just elevates our soup. For aromatics, we're going to need 1 medium sweet onion. I couldn't find Korean radish, so today we're using daikon, and we'll be adding some green onion. Make sure to save some of the green onion because we're going to use it to help garnish our soup. The daikon we use in this recipe plays a beautiful role in our soup. It not only helps flavor our stock, but it also adds natural sweetness to the soup where it doesn't make the soup too salty. If you've ever had Korean fried chicken, you know it's accompanied by a side of pickled radish. The purpose of the radish is to help cleanse the palate, and it's also super refreshing for our soup. What I love about daikon is when you eat it, you don't feel super heavy and groggy afterwards. Now going back to our aromatics, you're gonna peel off the skin on our onion. I like to give the top part of our onion a little haircut. Then we'll simply cut the onion down the middle and cut the onion in half. Now our green onion is super complicated. See? You take this bundle and kapow! You just rip it in half. JK, not complicated at all, right? Remember I said to save some of the green onions for our garnish, and that's exactly what we're gonna do here. Now you can choose whatever way you want to cut your onion. I like to make mine at an angle, and I think it looks better for presentation. So the traditional way of prepping this soup is soaking the short ribs in water for 2 hours or overnight. The purpose of that method is to release all the myoglobin in the meat. It's supposed to let out all the quote-unquote bad blood release out, and it takes out the gaminess of the beef. I understand that method, I totally get it, but your boy was hungry, so we're gonna do a parboil for our short ribs. Cover the ribs with water, add a tablespoon of kosher salt, bring the ribs to a boil, and then bring it down to medium and let it boil for 30 to 40 minutes. So that's the technique I use to creating a clear broth soup. If not, this is what you get. As you can see, you got all the impurities floating on top. You can simply skim it, or you can take it to the sink and rinse all of your short ribs off. So our short ribs are going to be simmering for another 2 hours, so we're not going to really lose any bone broth flavor. If anything, we're going to be adding more flavor, and we're just going to get a nice clean broth. Right here, I'm just rinsing off each short rib. You know, I'm taking off any excess old blood or any bone fragments from the rib. Sometimes when I'm rinsing off the rib, it kind of takes me back to my childhood where I'm cooking with my mom. You know, I'm asking her, why do you rinse off, your meat? Her answer would be, we do this extra step for the ones eating our food. We want to make sure the broth is nice and clean, the meat's super tender, and they can taste the love. 20-something years later, I finally get it. Okay, so now that our short ribs are all rinsed off, it's in a new bath. Let's start flavoring this bad boy. We're gonna add some green onion. Add in our medium sweet onion. Add in our peeled daikon or Korean radish. Make sure all of your vegetables are completely underwater. For the first hour, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of salt. Reason why we're only just adding salt for the first hour is because we want to build that stock around the onion, the daikon, and the green onions. Once the hours pass, we're gonna add more seasoning. Right now, I'll add 1 tablespoon of chicken bouillon. A more traditional recipe requires soy sauce. We'll mix in the chicken bouillon just a little bit. Okay, so if you're looking at your broth, you can see that the green onion did its job. It released all of its flavors, but we don't want it to boil down and melt into our stock and have it leave a green tint. Now, using a small ladle, we'll just skim off any excess fat or any residue that's in the stock. Now we're gonna remove the daikon from the stock pot, but make sure we save it. We're gonna actually cut the daikon into bite-sized pieces, and we're gonna garnish our soup. If you thought we were done with our soup flavors, you're tripping. We're gonna add our umami bomb packet. So we'll use it like a tea bag. We're gonna steep this for 30 minutes to an hour. Now it's gonna extract all them goody flavors into our soup, and that's pretty much it for our soup right here. Now for our saved daikon. So allow it to cool down for a little bit. Once it's cool to the touch, we can start cutting them into bite-sized pieces. So you can see the steam coming off of these bad boys. So actually they're not cool to the touch, so make sure you wait. Now let's check out the short rib. Ooh, look at that come off the bone. Yeah. So you don't have to do this to all of your short ribs, but I just wanted to share and show how tender that meat is. Now to prepare our bowl, we are going to use some sweet potato noodles. These are the same noodles you use for japchae. I'm just following the directions that was directly on the packet. It said, cook your noodles for 8 minutes. So that's what I'm about to do. Maybe I should have used a bigger pot, but yeah, just handling this part was a little difficult, FYI. Since the pot was a little small, I just wanted to stir all the noodles together. Wanted to make sure they separate and they don't get all sticky icky. Next, we'll take our noodles to the sink and we're gonna rinse them off with cold water. Before touching the hot noodles, make sure the cold water cools it down completely. I mean, I don't have iron hands just yet, but I don't want you to burn yourself. One last tip with the noodles is make sure you separate them. We don't want them sticking together when we place it in the bowl. In a clay pot, we're gonna add in our diced daikon. The clay pot is totally optional. I just wanted to recreate the whole Korean restaurant feel at the house. Now we'll add in a handful of cooked noodles. Make sure to place it in there all nice and neat, that way it stays pretty. Last but not least, we'll add in our star protein. We'll add in our sliced short rib. See, I think that looks good already, but there's so much room in the bowl, right? So, you know what? Let's add another piece of short rib. There we go. We got less empty space, and now it's time to add our beautiful broth. Do you see that beautiful color on that broth? Ooh, nice and clean. That's what I'm talking about. So we'll ladle in just one more thing of broth. So we want to make sure everything's all nice and hot. So we'll turn on the gas stove and allow this to boil. Make sure to put the lid on top of this, and this is what you get. Make sure to garnish this beautiful bowl with some green onions. And I love me some fresh cracked black pepper. Ladies and gents, I present to you Korean Galbitang. I hope you get to try out this recipe. Now don't forget to hammer that like button, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Welcome very much, and I'll see you again next time. Ooh. Clean. Hold up. Let me try that short rib now. Ooh. Super tender. But that meat is good.